Welcome back everyone. This is Manoj, and in this video we are going to talk about lifecycle methods of React component. What are React lifecycle methods? To put it in simple terms, you can think of React component lifecycle as the lifetime of a component. Basically, lifecycle methods are a series of events that happen throughout the birth, growth, and death of a React component. If you see on a screen, in React components, we have a list of lifecycle methods. The first phase is mounting, then updation, then unmounting. Last one is error handling. For the mounting phase, we have four lifecycle methods, which starts with constructor, get drive state from prop, then render, then component did mount. Let's look at a simple example and start the session with mounting phase. Go back to VS Code and let's create a class component inside this component folder. So new file, lifecycle demo.js. So in this file, I'm going to create a class component. So import React from React and class lifecycle demo extends react.component and render. Inside render, let's return a div. This is lifecycle demo and export default lifecycle demo. Save. Now go to app.js and import our component. So import lifecycle demo from component lifecycle demo and let's use it. Save. Go back to browser. So this is a lifecycle demo. Perfect. Now let's start our constructor method. The constructor method is called before anything else when the component is initiated, and it is the natural place to set up the initial state and other values. So let's see how we can use it. So go back to lifecycle method component, and here let's create our constructor, and in the constructor let's pass props, and after this simply call super method and pass props. Here let's declare one state. So this dot state, and in the state I'm going to give a property as favorite color and value is red. And here after this line, let's use br, a break line, and here simply use our color as JSX. So this dot state dot fav color. Save. Go back to browser. We can see the red has been rendered. All right. So this constructor method is called with the props as arguments, and you should always start by calling the super props this method before anything else, because this will initiate the parent's constructor method and allow the component to inherit method from its parent class, which is react.component. All right. So this is how we can use our constructor method. After constructor, we have another lifecycle method which is get derived state from props. This method is called right before rendering the element in the DOM, means before our render method. So it will be called between this constructor and render method. And let's see how we can use it. So go back to VS Code, and here let's use static get derived state from props, and this will take two parameters. The first one is prop, second one is state, and here simply return the state, and I'm going to change our state as yellow. Now save. If you go back to browser, you will see the color as yellow. Why? Because the execution start from constructor. It finds, okay, the fab color is red. After that it comes over here and it says, oh, fab color is yellow. Then it updates the color from red to yellow, and after that in the render method it finds the state as fab color with the color yellow. All right, so that is why we are able to see color as yellow. All right, now the third method is render, which we already used. Render is simply used to render HTML or your JSX to the DOM. All right. Now, the last method is component did mount. This component did mount method is called after the component is rendered, and this is where you can run your statements that requires the component is already placed in the DOM. Let's see how we can use it. For that, let's comment this out, and here component did mount, and here I'm going to use a set timeout method, and let's give 5000 millisecond, means 5 seconds timeout. And here I'm going to update our state. So this dot set state fab color, I'm going to make it blue. Save. Now go back to browser, let me refresh it. So on the initial load from the constructor, color is coming red, but after 5 seconds it will be changed to blue. As you can see, this is now blue. So component did mount is again when you want something to happen after your component is placed to the DOM. All right, so that's how you can use your logic in component did mount. So with this component did mount, we are covered our mounting phase, which includes constructor, get derived state from props, render, and component did mount. Now let's try to work on our updating phase. So in the updating phase, we have 5 lifecycle methods: get derived state from props, should component update, render, get snapshot before update, and finally is component did update. All right. Now, what is this update phase? Basically, a component is updated whenever there is a change in the component state or props. All right. And in this we have 5 lifecycle methods. The first one is get derived state from props, which is the exactly same with this get derived state from props. So we have already covered it. Now let's start with this should component update. Back to VS Code, and I'm going to create another file. So updating Lifeycycle.js. So import React from React class, updating lifecycle extends React.component and render. Inside this, return a simple div. This is updating phase, and after that let's use two break lines. Save, and I'm going to copy this constructor, and after this simply return our fab color using JSX. So this dot state dot fab color, save, and let's also use a button, change color, save, and in the app.js import, I forgot to export this, so export default updating lifecycle method. Now simply import update lifecycle method and return this. Go back to the browser. So this is updating phase, color is red, we have a button. All right, now let's create a event handler for this button. So on click, this dot change color, and create this event handler. So change color. In this, I'm going to update the state. So this dot set state, fav color is orange. Save. Go back to browser. If I click on this button, so our state is changing. Means our component is able to identify there is a change in the state. All right. Now, if you want that your state is updating, but you don't want to re-render your component, so how you can do that? For that, we can use should component update. Basically, this method allows us to return a boolean value which specify whether a React component should render or not. All right, the default value is true. So let's use should component update, and I'm going to return false. So false meaning it will not re-render the component. It will accept the state change, but it will not re-render the component. Let's see how. Go back to browser. If I click on this change color, see the color is still red. The state is changing, but here we have written false, so it is not re-rendering the component. All right. So this is how we can use our should component update. So after that, we have render method, which we already covered. Simply here, render is using to return your HTML to the DOM. Now, the fourth method is, if you see in the slide, we have get snapshot before update. Basically, in this method, we have access to our props and state before the update, meaning that even after the update, if you want, you can check your values, whatever there in the previous state. Let's see how we can use it. So I'm going to copy this component did mount method. So let's copy and let me comment this out. We need state, we need component did mount. Okay. Now get snapshot before update. In this, we can use our previous state and previous props. And I'm going to console one method, sorry, one message. Before the updation, the color was, and we can see fav state dot fav color. All right. Now save this. Go back to browser. One thing I want you to keep in mind, if you use get snapshot before update, then you should include the componented method. Otherwise, you will get an error. Go back to browser and open your developer tools. In the console, you see a snapshot value or null must be returned. You have returned identify, and get snapshot before should be used with component did update. All right. Let's close the developer tools. Back to VS Code. Now use component did update, and here I'm also logging a message, but this time the updated color is, instead of previous state, this dot state dot fav color. Save. Go back to browser, refresh, and in the console you see before the updation the color was red and the updated color is blue. All right. So after the update we are still able to see our previous state. All right. So this is how we can access our previous state and previous props. So this is about get snapshot before update. So we have covered get drive state from props, should component update, render, get snapshot before update, and component did update. So this is all about updating phase. Now let's talk about the next phase, which is unmounting. So go back to VS Code and let's create a new file, unmounting lifecycle.js, and create a class component. So import React from React, class unmounting lifecycle extends react.component, render, return div. This is unmounting lifecycle demo. Save. Go back to first export this, export default lifecycle method, and in the update simply import unmounting and use it here. So save, go back to browser. So this is unmounting lifecycle demo. Perfect. Now this unmounting phase is when a component is removed from the DOM. React has one inbuilt method, which is, if I go here, component will unmount. This method is called when the component is about to removed from the DOM. Let's see how we can use it. So in this class component, let's use our constructor, super, and this dot state, let's say show true equal, and let's use one, let header if this dot state dot show, then header is equal to child. I'm going to create one component, and finally here in return header, and after that let's use one button to remove this header. Remove header, and here for this on click, this dot delete header, and simply create this event handler. So delete header, this dot set state, and update our state as false. So far we have created a class component, we have created our constructor, and we have created our event handler delete header, and we are updating our state from true to false, and we have rendered a button and the header value. All right, now let's create another component, child.js. So import React from React, class child extends React.component, and here we will use component will unmount. Simply give a alert. Component is about to removed, and simply render return hello parent. Save. Now in the unmounting, import this. Import. Okay, I again forgot to export this. So export default child, import child from child. So we are done. Now in the app.js, okay, we already imported it. Now go back to browser. If I inspect this, let me quickly update the spelling of hello. Save. Now if I inspect this hello parent, so we have this h1 tag over here, and if I click on this remove header, so see this component is about to removed, and that particular component is removed from our DOM. So this is how you can simply use your component will unmount method, and which includes our unmounting phase. Now we have the another phase, which is error handling. So basically when things go bad in our code, so we throw some errors, and we have some methods to handle our error handling. The first one is get derived state from error, and the second one is component did catch. So let's go to VS Code and create our component for this fourth phase, which is error handling. And I'm going to create a component with error boundary. Import React from React, and class error boundary extends React.component. Render return error handling demo, and export default error boundary. Now in the app.js, simply import this. Import error boundary from error boundary, copy and replace this unmounting. Go back to browser. So we have rendered our error handling demo text. Now go back to our error boundary. Let's close the other. So here I'm going to use the first method of error handling, which is get derived state from error. So here simply use static get derived state from error, and this will take error as a parameter. And here we can simply console or log, or if you want, you can use your logger to log your current error or exception in your external file onto your server. So that is totally up to you how you are going to manage your errors. For this, I am simply using console statement error occurred here with the details. Error. So basically, whenever an error is thrown in the descendant component, this method is called first and the error thrown passed as an argument. Whenever value is returned from this method is used to update the state of the component. Alright. So here if you want you can return a fallback UI which you want to show to your end user. That is again up to you. The second method is component did catch. So let's update our component with using component did catch. For that, let's use one state. So create constructor props, super props, and this dot state has error as false. So we have our state now, and in this get derived state from props, simply use return has error true. So we have updated our state. So whenever there is an error exception, this has error property will be changed from false to true. Now, component did catch. This will take two parameters. First one is your error, and the second one, whatever info you want to send it. So console.log error log from component did catch and error. And if you want, you can console your info, whatever you are passing, component did catch. And here again, if you want, you can return a fallback UI, or if you want, you can return any message. All right. Now, since the error boundary can only catch errors from the child components, we'll have the component render whatever is passed as children or render a default error UI if something went wrong. Let's say this H1, or if you want you can create a separate component and you can include over here like something went wrong, server is busy, try later. All right, so this is all about a React lifecycle method, and we have covered all our phases. We have covered the respective lifecycle methods of each phases. All right, so this is about this video. I hope now you have a clear idea about lifecycle methods of a React component. So in the next video I'll talk about higher order components. So I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Take care. Bye bye.